Imagine this. You step into a dealership, the polished floors reflecting rows of sleek, futuristic electric vehicles, each one silently promising a cleaner, smarter future. You feel the excitement, knowing that the United States government is standing behind your decision to go electric, offering you a generous $7,500 discount simply for choosing an electric vehicle over a traditional gas guzzler. This is no ordinary coupon. It is a powerful lever, one that has made electric vehicles, or EVs, suddenly affordable for millions of Americans. But now, imagine that discount vanishing overnight. No gradual phase-out, no warning, just gone. What happens next? This isn't merely about your next car purchase. The real stakes are the future of American transportation, the global battle to lead clean technology, and the very direction of the energy economy. Let's dig into why this single tax credit is so pivotal. The United States federal EV tax credit, worth up to $7,500 per vehicle, originated with the Energy Policy Act of 2005, a landmark bill aimed at steering the nation toward energy independence. It was turbocharged by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 in the wake of the financial crisis, aiming to inject life into both the auto industry and the broader economy. Fast forward to the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, and the incentive was refined further to encourage U.S.-based manufacturing, promote job creation, and strengthen domestic supply chains. For close to 2 decades, this credit has acted as rocket fuel for America's EV market. When the incentive is available, automakers witness surges in showroom traffic, and factories ramp up production to keep up with the new wave of demand. It's not an exaggeration. This tax credit has fundamentally shifted the trajectory of the American auto sector. Ford, for example, has gone beyond slashing prices. They now offer free home charging equipment, plus installation, to remove friction for new EV owners. Tesla, famous for both its marketing and innovation, plasters its website with bold banners. $7,500 federal tax credit ending. Take delivery by September 30th, 2025. This creates a sense of urgency, nudging buyers to act before the window closes. Rivian's finance chief openly encourages buyers, calling it a great time to be considering an EV, while hinting that new incentives might emerge if the federal credit dries up. These are not just sales pitches. They reflect how deeply the federal tax credit has become woven into the entire EV ecosystem. But let's zoom out to the global level. The United States is far from alone in the race to electrify transportation. Around the world, nations are deploying an arsenal of policies to speed up EV adoption. Norway, for instance, has transformed itself into the world's EV capital by offering not just subsidies, but also perks like total exemption from road tolls, free city parking, and even access to bus lanes. The result? More than 80% of all new cars sold in Norway are now electric, an achievement that would have seemed unthinkable even a decade ago. Elsewhere in Europe, the Netherlands and Germany have introduced their own robust packages of tax breaks, rebates, and incentives. Germany, for example, has provided direct cash bonuses to EV buyers and has invested heavily in a nationwide fast-charging network. The Netherlands has implemented zero road tax for electric vehicles and granted access to special low-emission zones in city centers. These policies are not just about handing out money. They are about reducing all the little frictions that stand between a consumer and an electric vehicle. Meanwhile, China has taken a different approach, one both broader and deeper. The Chinese government has poured tens of billions of dollars into building vast battery factories, funding advanced research and development, and constructing a sprawling network of charging stations that now covers nearly the entire country. The result? China is now the undisputed leader in EV production and sales, accounting for the majority of all electric vehicles sold worldwide. Chinese automakers like BYD and NIO have become global names, exporting electric vehicles to Europe, South America, and beyond. As Fatih Birol, executive director of the International Energy Agency, puts it, electric cars are a driving force behind the new global energy economy and will play a key role in reaching net zero emissions. And yet, despite all these initiatives, electric vehicles remain more expensive up front than their gasoline-powered counterparts. The cost gap is due largely to the pricey batteries and the cutting-edge technology packed into every EV. Michelle Krebs, a seasoned automotive analyst at Cox Automotive, explains, affordability remains a significant barrier to EV adoption, and the expiration of the tax credit could exacerbate this issue. For many American families, that $7,500 incentive is the difference between making the leap to electric or sticking with a traditional car. Without it, the equation shifts, and not in favor of clean technology. Already, the market is showing signs of strain. In recent months, U.S. sales and leases of battery-powered vehicles have slowed from the breakneck pace seen earlier this decade. Automakers are responding with a flurry of last-minute deals, price slashes, extra perks, extended warranties, and even free public charging for a year, all designed to tempt buyers before the clock runs out at the end of September 2025. Some companies are even racing to push more vehicles out of factories in the hope of maximizing the number of customers who can still claim the tax credit. So what really happens if the federal $7,500 EV tax credit disappears? The answer is as layered and intricate as the global EV supply chain itself. First, consider the immediate impact: affordability. Without the tax credit, the price difference between EVs and gasoline cars grows even larger. For families watching their budgets, the prospect of owning an EV slips farther away. Michelle Krebs is direct. Without continued incentives, the cost barrier will slow adoption for most American families. The issue is not just financial, it's psychological. There's a sense of missing out on a great deal, or a reluctance to be an early adopter when the technology and infrastructure still feel uncertain. Doug Betts, president of J.D. Power, highlights another critical point: uncertainty surrounding federal EV incentives and challenges with the public charging network create headwinds for EV adoption in the United States. While major cities now boast impressive networks of fast chargers, vast stretches of rural America remain underserved. For a country built on the freedom of the open road, the fear of running out of power miles from the nearest charger is a major deterrent. Take, for example, the so-called charging deserts in parts of the Midwest and South, where charging infrastructure lags far behind coastal states like California and New York. For many would-be buyers, these gaps in the network are deal breakers, especially in the absence of a meaningful financial incentive. The auto industry's leaders are sounding the alarm. General Motors CEO Mary Barra has warned that sales could slow or even stall if the tax credit vanishes. Ford, Stellantis, and Volkswagen have echoed these concerns. In response, they're exploring alternative strategies, offering deeper discounts, bundling home charging stations with new vehicles, extending warranties, and even launching creative financing programs with lower interest rates. Some manufacturers are experimenting with loyalty programs that offer additional perks to returning customers. But all of these strategies eat into already tight profit margins, and none can fully replace the broad impact of a substantial federal incentive. Stepping back, the broader context becomes clear. This is not just a domestic issue. It's a global race for clean technology leadership. If the United States retreats, it risks ceding ground to its rivals. In China, government support remains robust. The state is investing in the next generation of battery plants and turbocharging the expansion of charging infrastructure. Chinese automakers are leveraging economies of scale, producing EVs at lower costs and exporting them worldwide. In Europe, governments are not only giving out incentives, they're enacting hard deadlines to phase out internal combustion engines, sometimes as soon as the end of the next decade. For example, Norway plans to ban the sale of new gasoline and diesel vehicles by 2025, while the United Kingdom and France target 2035. The global momentum toward electrification is undeniable. If the United States falters now, it risks becoming a follower in the next automotive revolution, just as it lost ground in industries like solar panels and telecommunications to more aggressive, state-supported competitors. The lessons of economic history are clear. In the early 20th century, the American government used tax breaks and infrastructure investment to help gasoline-powered cars achieve mass adoption, building roads, fueling stations, and entire new industries. During the oil crises of the 1970s, federal subsidies drove the development of more fuel-efficient vehicles and alternative energy research. Today, the electric vehicle movement stands at a similar crossroads. The question is, will American innovation and market muscle be enough to thrive without government support, or does the industry still need a helping hand? Some experts argue that the end of the tax credit might actually accelerate innovation. Without the cushion of a federal incentive, automakers would be forced to slash manufacturing costs, streamline production, and develop better, cheaper batteries. Colin McCarricher, an analyst at Bloomberg NEF, believes that falling battery prices will eventually make EVs competitive even without subsidies. Since 2010, battery costs have plummeted by more than 80%. New technologies, such as solid-state batteries, promise even greater leaps forward. Shorter charging times, longer driving ranges, and increased safety. Imagine a future where an electric vehicle can go 500 miles on a single charge and refuel in the time it takes to order a coffee. That future is not science fiction. It is on the horizon, if investment and innovation continue at today's pace. There may also be a period of market consolidation. As incentives fade, smaller or less efficient brands could struggle, leading to mergers, acquisitions, or market exits. The survivors will be those with scale, agile supply chains, and relentless innovation. History shows this pattern in other sectors. When government support ebbed in the American steel industry, consolidation followed. The personal computer revolution saw dozens of companies collapse or merge, leaving only the strongest and most innovative standing. The coming years could see a similar shakeout in the EV market, one that ultimately benefits consumers with better products and lower prices. Alternatively, the loss of the federal EV tax credit could spark renewed interest in alternative technologies. Hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, for example, have long been considered a promising clean alternative. While they face challenges, expensive fuel cells, a lack of refueling stations, and high production costs, a breakthrough in hydrogen storage or cheaper production methods could rapidly change the landscape. Similarly, plug-in hybrids, which combine electric and gasoline power, may enjoy a resurgence. These vehicles offer the flexibility of long-range travel without the anxiety of finding a charger, appealing to drivers in regions where charging infrastructure remains limited. But the risks of letting the tax credit expire are very real. Without sustained government support, the United States could see a sharp slowdown in EV adoption, with ripple effects far beyond car dealerships. Fewer EV sales mean less demand for domestic battery plants, fewer good-paying green manufacturing jobs, and slower progress toward national climate goals. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 was designed, in part, to address these challenges by strengthening the American clean energy supply chain. Since its passage, companies have announced multi-billion-dollar investments in new battery factories in states like Georgia, Michigan, and Texas. If the momentum stalls, those investments and the jobs they promise could disappear. Beyond the economic stakes, the environmental consequences are immense. Electric vehicles are a cornerstone in the fight against climate change. According to Greg Keolayan, a professor at the University of Michigan, EVs offer significant environmental benefits compared to gasoline cars, especially when powered by clean electricity. However, he cautions that it is crucial to consider the full life cycle emissions of both vehicles and batteries. From mining raw materials like lithium and cobalt, to manufacturing, to recycling old batteries, every stage of the process matters. The transition to electric mobility is not just about swapping engines. It is about reimagining the entire energy ecosystem. Let's put this into perspective. The average gasoline car in America emits roughly 4.5 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. Switching to an EV charged with renewable energy can slash those emissions by more than half. Multiply that by tens of millions of vehicles, and the impact is transformative, not just for climate change, but for urban air quality, public health, and energy security. Yet, all of this progress depends on making EVs accessible and attractive to mainstream consumers. So what does this mean for you? Whether you're a consumer contemplating your next car, an investor tracking the auto sector, or a policymaker weighing the next big move, there are critical lessons to keep in mind. If you're considering buying an EV, timing is everything. The current incentives can save you thousands of dollars, but that window may be closing faster than you think. Watch for special deals from automakers, price reductions, free charging offers, bundled home charger installations, and even longer warranties. As the credit expiration approaches, expect to see creative promotions aimed at getting you into an electric vehicle before the deadline. For those on the fence, now may be the best time to make the switch. Investors, take note. The companies that will emerge strongest from this transition are those with robust balance sheets, advanced battery technology, and clear plans for cost reduction. Pay close attention to suppliers and battery manufacturers. The race to develop affordable, high-performance batteries is heating up. Keep an eye on companies investing in solid-state battery research, as well as those securing reliable supplies of critical minerals like lithium, nickel, and cobalt. For policymakers, the challenge is daunting. Balance is required between fiscal responsibility and the urgent need to accelerate the shift to clean mobilities. Some argue that incentives should gradually phase out as the market matures, to avoid creating a permanent dependency. Others point to the experiences of Norway, Germany, and China, which show that a mix of incentives, infrastructure investment, and strong policy signals is essential for driving high rates of EV adoption. According to Christina Bu, Secretary General of the Norwegian EV Association, strong government incentives and a well-developed charging infrastructure are crucial for achieving high EV adoption rates. The message is clear. Incentives alone are not enough. They must be part of a broader strategy. It's also worth remembering the ripple effects of these decisions. The policies crafted in Washington, Beijing, Berlin, and other power centers will determine not only the cars we drive, but also the jobs we create, the air we breathe, and our collective ability to meet the existential challenge of climate change. The stakes could hardly be higher. Here is the bottom line. Should the $7,500 federal tax credit end, the American EV market will almost certainly take a hit in the short term. Adoption rates will slow, some buyers will delay their electric dreams, and automakers will face tougher headwinds. But this is not the end of the story. The relentless advance of technology, the global push for cleaner air, and the lessons from leading EV nations all suggest that, with the right blend of innovation and smart policy, electric vehicles can still win the race. Here's an historical tidbit. The very first United States federal support for electric vehicles dates back to the Energy Policy Act of 2005, almost 2 decades ago. For an entire generation, the American EV industry has evolved, with the government's hand helping to steer. The next few years will be the real test. Can this industry drive itself forward, or does it still need the government at the wheel? Looking ahead, the future remains unwritten. The choices made today will echo for decades. Will the United States double down on innovation, invest in charging infrastructure, and create a new generation of clean energy jobs? Or will it risk falling behind as other nations lead the charge? So what's your view? If the $7,500 tax credit disappears, will the United States keep pace? Or will American EVs stall out? Are American automakers truly ready to compete on a level playing field? Or is ongoing government support still essential? Share your thoughts below. We want to hear your perspective on the road ahead. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the high-stakes world of global economics and technology, remember to subscribe, hit the bell, and stay tuned for more stories that could change not just the way you drive, but the future you live in.